So here we do have Tricked Esports versus Synergy on Braxis Holdout. This was a game that was played in HGC Europe not too long ago. And it is going to be Alex the Progy. Alex the Progy, by the way, is, in my opinion, at a minimum, the best Arthas player in the Western Hemisphere. There really just is not a better Arthas player. So when we're talking about this matchup, I don't know necessarily how good Hydra is at Rexxar. He is a mechanically skilled player. Rexxar's a mechanically skilled hero, so that seems to match up well. But Arthas is being played by the best Arthas player in the Western Hemisphere, like easily one of the best Arthas players in the world. Easily probably one of the top 4 pro players on Arthas. Period. You know you're going to have a relatively even matchup. Like Arthas is going to do the best that he possibly can do in the matchup, and whether or not he wins or not. So we're going to see a little bit of a pressure play here. The Zarya and Nubarak just doing a lot to get the maximum value in the lane. If you spam your abilities as a Nubarak, you get the Beetles, which tank the shots. Zarya has a ton of siege damage, and we are going to see the swap here. Stitches and Kael'thas and Malf all coming top. Falstad could have flown, right? So the reason that Falstad was top is because he could have flown bottom. But this makes us a 2-3 split with the rotation. Who are the 3 Asians? I would actually say that Zelia. Zelia is the other Arthas player in the world that I know for a fact is really good. And I don't know how I would rank the current top Arthas players from Korea. I don't know who'd be in the top 2 there, because we haven't been seeing enough Arthas, and the Arthas we have been seeing has not been great teams. So one thing to note about the solo lane matchup is whenever you have a solo lane matchup where one person has better wave clear, it's very, very, very difficult to do anything but tie the lane at best. You're not going to be able to push in on them for the most part unless you actually have direct kill potential. And Misha can peel for Rexxar. So having direct kill potential on Rexxar, not so likely. The best thing you can do is run Rexxar out of mana healing Misha, which is not great. Also, Rexxar took Bird of Prey at level 1, which gives him basically instant wave clear. This does, right from level 1, this one-shots the mage minion and puts all the archer minions at basically one auto attack away from death. So that level of wave clear is going to make this lane incredibly difficult. And here's the best way to deal with it. Now, Alex the Progy even makes a mistake here, in my opinion. If you aggro the wave before it gets to your towers and just tank it, especially the first wave, every subsequent wave, if you just never attack it, will always be here. Right? It'll always be here. It'll always cost you a little bit of health to keep it there, but you're Arthas, you have the ability to self-Q, you have that sustain. And you're not going to run out of mana sustaining just spamming your Q, because you're not using your E for wave clear. You're just sitting there. Also worth noting, he did pick up Eternal Hunger at level 1. This is pretty much the only scenario where I recommend doing this, actually, against Misha, because Misha counts as a hero. You can just spam the quest on her. It gives you some late game viability. It gives you a lot of burst. But you can see he's starting to do it here, right? He's tanking the range minion wave, and then as soon as his minion wave gets there, it's done. He's fine. And now, if he maintains this consistently for the remainder of this laning phase, the enemy wave will always be here, which means Rexxar, in order to be in range of controlling Misha, always has to be in this area. He can't be completely safe behind his towers. Why does this matter? Well, because this is a Falstad. This is a global. If Rexxar always has to be at least slightly far out, then there's always the possibility that he gets into a bad position and dies. This is one of the premier elements of doing a solo lane in an unfavorable matchup. Try and get the wave on your side of the map and keep it there. Manage your waves without clearing such that the wave is always in a very, very, very favorable position for you. This also prevents something called freezing. If you freeze a wave on your side of the map or in the middle, a hero can potentially be zoned out. For instance, one of the ways Thrall's does this, Thrall will try and get the wave onto his side of the map, but then instead of standing behind the wave, he'll do exactly what Alex the Progy is doing here. He'll stand in front of the wave. And if you want to get to that experience, if you want to be in range, you have to step up to Thrall, who can poke you with Q. So he pokes. This is why Thrall wins the solo lane against anyone who doesn't have sustain. Because there comes a point where his poke does so much damage that you have to back up. The minion wave dies, you miss some of the experience. So it's freezing the lane. And you can also do it... You can do it offensively, you can also do it defensively, as is the case here with Alex the Prodigy, managing where the minion wave stands in the lane. You can see he's just doing his D on cooldown on Misha. He doesn't actually expect to contest the point. Hydra is managing the globe intake. This actually really matters, especially with the Misha body. There's no reason that if you're solo laning as Rexxar, anyone else should ever pick up this globe on Braxis. It should always be Misha getting it. If your counterpart in the lane can't pick up the globe, they can't sustain as much because they'll run out of health and mana a little bit faster, and you won't. And here's where the truly frustrating part of the Rexxar matchup comes into play, especially when he takes this level 1 talent for this wave clear. He clears the wave, and he just heals Misha, and Misha just sits there on the point. Eventually, you can drive Misha off the point. This was less true pre-rework. It's more true post-rework. But in order to keep Misha on the point, you have to miss experience because Rexxar's clearing the wave, right? So as soon as he's going to miss the experience, Alex the Prodigy's like, okay, I give. The point's yours for now. And then as soon as he picks up the XP, he comes back. But Hydra's going to keep Misha on the point, gets the stun, and he's going to leave. Has to sacrifice the point temporarily. So there's enough, and this is an important equation. Does Misha do enough damage or take enough damage to force or keep the point? And in the case of Arthas, especially with this level 1 talent, Eternal Hunger, we can actually check the stacks. Currently at 10 stacks, which is actually finished. That's really good, considering it's a 12-second cooldown and we're only 2 minutes, almost 3 minutes into the game, right? That means that he's used this 2 minutes worth of time, basically. In the first 30 seconds, he wasn't fighting, right? So he's using it basically on cooldown extremely well. What about Rexxar versus Vikings? I have never seen anyone play Rexxar versus Vikings in the solo lane, and I don't even know how that would go. I'm going to be honest. Vikings can do enough damage to force Misha off the point, but they can't out-clear. I don't know how that would go. Hydra's doing a really good job, but he is running out of mana, and this is the primary issue that Rexxar runs into, is he does run out of mana. He's forced to burn tap for it. He now has Animal Husbandry, which means it's going to get harder and harder to force Misha off the point. Healing is going to get more and more efficient because... actually, I lied. Misha's heal used to have a coding that was percent-based, but it's not true anymore. So it's actually going to be not as efficient necessarily. And Misha on the point, but again, Alex Prodigy has to make a decision. Do I get the soak or not? And notice the dynamic here. The 4-man is winning really hard in the top lane for synergy. They have the point. Because they have the point, Alex is forced to give up this experience to make sure that the point doesn't get completely captured. This is one of the problems of having a solo laning matchup that's bad, especially on Braxis. If your 4-man's winning, you can afford to give up the point. It's fine. Your 4-man's winning. Eventually you'll get ahead anyway. If your 4-man's losing, you need to be on that point 100% of the time. You can never let the other person have it. Rexxar can always be contesting the point and soaking. He can do both. Right? This is why Rexxar is so annoying to deal with all the time. So as soon as top is gone, they know they can't get it back, Alex is like, oh, I'm missing soak, but I have to sit on this point. I have to sit on this point. And then Hydra backs up, prioritizes the soak here. He's going to rotate down, grab the globe. And put Misha back on the point. And it sounds pretty simple, right? It sounds like a really simple concept. It does require a certain amount of mechanical execution. It requires a lot of decision-making. But Rexxar puts almost everyone in an impossible position because he clears the wave so fast. Even if you start to kill Misha, you can't actually kill Misha. Here's the funny thing about Misha's rework. Misha now moves faster on the recall. So if you're calling Misha back to you with call Misha with the D, she moves faster. Even if she's slowed, she will eventually get away from you. So unless he's willing to root Misha, odds are Alex can never kill the Misha. And as long as Misha's alive, he can't have the point and get all the experience. He can have the point some of the time and miss some of the experience, or he can get all the experience and never have the point. That's the decision he has to make. And it's not really a position you want to be in. He can kill Rexxar. If Rexxar makes the mistake of getting rooted too many times, getting low, taking poke. And this would actually be a situation where we've seen Tempo Storm's Q build actually be really, really, really good. The combination of Deathlord plus Immortal Coil would give Alex poke potential against Hydra, directly against Rexxar, and he could actually heal and threaten real damage on the Hydra to the point where he could get him low enough that if he could root him and walk on top of him with his Frozen Tempest, he could actually kill him. This is one of those situations where Q-Build would have definitely been the better choice for winning the lane exclusively. The thing about Q-Build is you give up almost all of your late game team fight potential because Icebound Fortitude and Frozen Wastes are so important, right? So you're giving him a lot for that dynamic. Also, they have a global, right? So he doesn't necessarily have to kill Rexxar himself. He just get Rexxar low enough that the global lane will definitely secure the kill, and it does in this case with Eternal. So they managed to secure bottom point. Alex is going to go back and tap.
Red team has destroyed a fort.
But at this point, the game is almost over. Those two, the kills secured in the top lane by synergy, the fact that they have a Zarya, the fact that their 4-man is so much stronger, has put them in a position where they can sort of sit on their lead. They're now Palantir. The best chance that Tricked has of coming back right here is actually to fight right as they hit 7. And their comp isn't really great at level 7. They don't really get any super amazing tools at 7 for team fighting, with the exception of Icebound Fortitude. And you can see as soon as they hit 7, they're gonna rotate. They're gonna go for the fight because they've lost the lanes. They've lost the lanes. Bear in mind, they were losing top, but if they'd been winning bottom, they still would have been winning 50% of the map. Right? They would have been losing 50%, winning 50%. On average, they would have been fine. But they were losing both lanes. And that's why solo laning is so incredibly important. Because, especially on Braxis or other 2-lane maps, if you're losing the solo lane, you're losing half the map. And you can be losing the other half of the map and be fine as long as you're winning the solo lane. So they try and force the fight. They don't succeed. They don't manage to make that work out. And they get Zerg waved pretty much 100 to 0 here. They go for the defense. It doesn't work out. This is an interesting dynamic, by the way, that happens when you have one hero that has a global and your solo laner is not that hero. If you have a solo laner that is just a regular hero with a mount and you have a solo laner that has a global, in the mid to late game, you're going to transition to split soaking as opposed to solo laning. There's a difference. Falstad right now is split soaking. He's away from his team. He's trying to get experience to catch up, while Synergy pushes with their advantage because they know they're going to have 10. Alex is no longer solo laning, and Falstad is not the new solo laner. He is split soaking. And there is a significant difference. I think the game actually ends here off of this push. This is pretty one-sided. The one-sidedness primarily came down to the 4-man. Alex wasn't doing that badly in holding the lane. Although, again, I consider Alex to be a much better Arthas player than Hydra is a Rexxar player. Although Hydra is a very, 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 very good player. Actually, all the pro players in HCC are really good guys. We even the NA players. I mean, I know a lot of people make fun of them. There's Twitch chat memes. But all of the NA players are really good. They just are. So, yeah. Long story short, too long didn't watch. Arthas cannot win both the point and the experience against Rexxar. It's close in terms of mana generation because Rexxar keeps spamming his heal. It would be a little bit closer with Q build. Alex absolutely made the right choice in taking Eternal Hunger I think it gives him more mana sustain and it gives him more damage, and he has an easy stacking target against Misha whenever he's on the point. You can talk about goofy things like Icy Talon's Rune Tap. Maybe that would be better, but you'd run out of mana. But then you'd have the extra mana sustain from the Q talent. So, can anyone? Yeah, there's a lot of heroes who can poke Rexxar directly, and Rexxar can't heal himself. He can only heal Misha. So the heroes that can beat Rexxar in lane are anyone who has long range poke that ideally heals them. There's 2 heroes that fit that description. There's Thrall and there's Alarak. Alarak dumpsters Rexxar in lane. It's actually not even close. The worst part is that since Misha counts as a hero, Alarak can consistently line up his E so that he heals twice. Normally, when you're soul laning 1v1 against Alarak, you can only heal a little bit from his E, but against Misha in particular, he can heal for a lot. Especially, and it gives him an easy way of finishing his level 7 quest for the cooldown reduction, and he can just... You can't do enough damage to kill an Alarak if he's lining up his E's correctly, his Lightning Surge. Thrall's poke, really, really good. The way to beat... Thrall's a little bit more complicated, because in order to sustain enough, Thrall has to make sure his Chain Lightning is hitting multiple targets, and if Rexxar just stays far enough away from the wave, that poking him means you don't get the wave sustain, you force Thrall to make this trade-off. It can be much more difficult. Whoever plays better will win. Alarak should just win even if he plays badly in many ways. Illidan is another good counter because Illidan can get on top of Rexxar and threaten him directly with his mobility. The problem is that Illidan's really vulnerable to stuns, and Misha has a stun. So that's again another sort of very skill-intensive matchup. We saw Psalm play Illidan on Braxis against a Rexxar, but that was pre-rework Rexxar, so one of the reasons I did not choose to do that replay is I was only focusing on post-rework Rexxar replays, because having that wave clear talent level 1 significantly changed some of Rexxar's matchups. That's a good question. I think those are the top 3. There's potentially some other heroes that could do what I'm willing to say is okay, but they don't necessarily win.